Welcome back to 5 Rounds. On Saturday night, the women's bantamweight title will be up for grabs when Ronda Rousey looks to defend against Sarah McMahon. 2 Olympians colliding in the main event, and I am absolutely stoked for this fight. 2 athletes at the highest caliber, 2 of the roughest, toughest martial arts in the entire world, and I just can't wait. I know a lot of people believe that Ronda Rousey is going to absolutely demolish the division, but I have a feeling it's not going to be the case when she faces Sarah McMahon.
Well, Ronda Rousey is as great as everyone says. If DFW is to believe, she's the biggest star they've ever had. I don't know if we're willing to quite say that yet, but she certainly is a big star and an incredible talent. But the level of athletes she's been facing, they've been deficient in certain areas, including wrestling, and this woman is not deficient in wrestling.
The problem is, you know, you look at wrestling, and we know how powerful of an art it is. It's one of the biggest bases in mixed martial arts right now. But when it comes down to other elements, including the submission game, will Sarah McMahon have the tools in her back pocket to stop the armbar of Ronda Rousey?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You go and you're facing Ronda Rousey 10 weeks from now. Well, we better learn to defend that throw, and we better learn to defend that armbar. Well, you can't do it. You can't do that in 10 weeks. But if you're a really elite wrestler, well, you'll try to stay centered in that guard. You'll try to stay smart in that guard. You don't have to learn everything about jiu-jitsu. You have to learn to counter it. Can she do that? I don't know, man. But it is a really, really exciting fight.
Robin and I traveled to Revolution MMA here in Toronto to learn some of Ronda Rousey's favorite techniques.
My partner's coming in, hooking, and taking me back. I don't want to keep my back to the ground. All I'm going to do to counter it now is grab a few different spots. Number 1, I need to control his sleeve. I'm going to grab his arm. My other hand has several options. 2 options we'll focus on are what Ronda's using. 1 is going to be to whizzer, which you don't always have time to do. I need to insert this arm because I don't want the person to take my back. Bad. Didn't happen to Ronda, but could happen in the future. So whizzer is 1 option. More common, what Ronda's using is hugging. She's grabbing the lats and basically controlling like head and arm. Head and arm. Not here, little dangerous. Down here, controlling. You can tickle. No, I'm grabbing here, grabbing the lats. But the important step that I need to do is when he starts to push, my base leg has to jump inside. I have to put this underneath our weight. As I'm going inside with his foot, my other leg does the last motion he did, which is kicking up. Here. What's actually throwing him is not so much my leg, but my upper thigh and my butt. The weight is, the center of gravity is underneath there, on top of there. Go. Here, step and turn. Head up, sorry, head down, leg up.
We are happy to be joined by the owner of Revolution Mixed Martial Arts here in Toronto, Judo Black Belt, Judo Joel Gerson. And Joel, first thing I got to talk about is we saw you training in the kimono with Robin there. What type of adjustments does Ronda need to make for mixed martial arts, considering the gi is now not present?
The gripping is going to change completely, and she's made those adjustments already. She's obviously shown us a highlight reel of judo throws against, you know, a variety of different fighters. But it's really about the gripping and the transitions going from a striking range into a judo kind of grappling range.
And of course, Ronda Rousey she continues to impress. But we've seen judo over the years kind of touch mixed martial arts. Carl Parisian, Sokoju. Where do you rank Ronda in terms of overall mixed martial arts judo? Obviously, she's a high level bronze medalist at the Olympic Games, but where does she rank with her judo in mixed martial arts?
I'd probably put her at the top. And the big thing with her judo, actually, is that what people don't realize, even within the judo world, is her arm bars are top shelf. So when she's applying her groundwork to a mixed martial arts environment, it's not that difficult to transition for her. But within the MMA sphere, people talk about her throws, but the reality is her submissions are amazing as well.
Ronda Rousey, of course, now a mixed martial artist, and one of the things that's present in mixed martial arts is the cage. Of course, there's no cage on the judo mats, the tatamis. We now look at what happens when a fighter is up against the cage, and Ronda's techniques there.
So Robin right now, he's against the fence. He doesn't like it. He's trying to get back over there. Against the fence is bad. So what Ronda does is she steps inside and rolls over. She rolls her over. Again. So I'm using the push. So what's great is Misha, who's such a bully, can still change her game and not be pushing now and do not what she wants to do, but she's going to take what you're giving her. She's an expert. So we're here. She's going to redirect the energy. Just stay where you are. So that means I got to get out of the way. I'm going to get out of the way by stepping in front and throwing over that way. Notice the arm is inside. He can't block. If he blocks, he might shut down my throw. He might also break his arm. But the idea now is the arm is safe, and I'm actually committing my body under him. Here. And now I have options, right?
And obviously, Ronda, it's all about feel for her. It seems that she's just so fluid every time she grabs somebody, any type of transitions she has. How much of a factor is feel opposed to just having a lifetime of experience, or are the two do they work hand in hand?
I think a big thing with Ronda's feel is when you push her, she's going to pull and use it. And it's very different from wrestlers in MMA. Wrestlers will go through you. That's the difference. If I'm shooting a double, I'm shooting a single, I'm putting you into the ground, I'm going through you. The difference with Ronda is you push her, she's turning and she's reversing it. And I don't think a lot of people have been used to seeing that a lot in MMA because there hasn't been a lot of judo. But the fighters she's going up against are coming in aggressive, they're pushing, and she's using it to her advantage.
It's interesting, too, because you feel that when you were throwing me, it's like, you know, it's working with balance against balance, and it's forcing somebody to overcommit. And you do that with little subtle movements. So if I'm preparing to fight a Ronda Rousey who has 2 decades of doing that and handling that, I can't just bring a black belt in and train for 6 or 8 weeks to try to learn that.
Well, it's a major factor is being able to duplicate your opponent in your training camp. And the problem that Sarah McMahon has is how do you find a 135-pound judo fighter that's willing to train MMA with you on such short notice? You have to have good resources, and that's a big question. Has she been able to bring somebody in that can duplicate those so she can get used to countering this, countering that, countering that? Ronda's had as many years as she's been doing MMA to learn how to counter wrestling. So she has an advantage in that department.
I like that you talked about that, Robin. You mentioned subtlety, and one of the things Ronda does very well is the subtle foot sweep.
So the idea is moving backwards, he kicks, I catch, and this hand does one of 2 things. Ronda likes to punch, knocks you out of balance, bang. Or we could also do what other guys do in MMA, which is knock the shoulder and take down. Ground and pound, take the arm, whatever we want. So I'm bullying him, ba, 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 catch, drop so there's no punches coming in my face, and I can go now pushing on the upper body while I raise the lower body, running to the corner. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom.
Joel, when you just assess Ronda's skill set overall, what do you anticipate the game plan would be going into this fight, considering she's facing an athlete that is as dedicated, as determined as she is? And you and I have talked about it before. Yes, judo is a very, very rough sport, but so is wrestling.
I think actually people are going to be surprised to see these 2 girls stand and punch it out. And I think they're getting much more comfortable with their striking. I think their takedowns are going to somewhat shut each other down. I also think Sarah McMahon, if she takes Ronda to the ground, is going to have problems. It's not necessarily a strategic move.
Yeah, and I think realistically, this is kind of a scenario where Ronda and her coaches have had striking in their back pocket for the last couple of years. Only used it to close the distance and get the clinch. Now she's going to try to show off that she's got high-level striking, and the word is that she does.
Well, a top 205-pound fighter says that Ronda may win this fight, but it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Do you want to see Ronda? She will get beat. Positionally, she will get beat. She will not dominate this the way we've seen her dominate in the past. Now, I'm not saying she will lose this fight, but I'm saying positionally, you will see her get out-scrambled, out-wrestled, out-maneuvered. It will not be a one-sided Ronda show, I can tell you that.
And then we heard from Phil Davis, and he's anticipating that Sarah McMahon is going to bring this fight to Ronda Rousey. Do you think there's going to be anything there that Ronda Rousey hasn't seen, considering the fact that Sarah McMahon is a silver medalist in wrestling?
Sarah McMahon is really strong and really aggressive. She's shown a strong right hand. Her tendency, she has problems with her ranges when she comes in for her boxing, but the real problem Ronda's going to have is getting punched in the face harder than she's been punched before in the UFC. Maybe not in training, but in the UFC for sure.
True, and I do like what Phil said about, you know, when we saw Ronda fight a number of high-level people like Sarah Kaufman, who is elite, she won every single battle. You get the underhook, you get the wrist. Each of those is a fight, and she would win them instantly. I don't think she's going to win every positional battle like she's accustomed to, and that's going to be a challenge for her, too.
And I think one of the things that people forget, though, it's like, yes, these converted wrestlers, converted judokas haven't taken the punches in the past. But you and I were having this conversation as well. You and I and Phil Davis were having the conversation of being slammed on the mat, your head over and over through your time in judo, it has to prepare you somewhat from taking some of the punches.
The only sport as violent on the whole body as wrestling is judo, and I knew that.
I would actually argue that it's a lot tougher on the body.
Both. I mean, I was accustomed to having high-level wrestlers throw me around in the gym, and Joel was being nice to me. But when you feel your spine
Like really
make
nice.
impact, really nice.
People paid me not to be nice. I'm like, no, more.
There's a lot of people out there that would have loved to see you smash me through the mat. I appreciate that you didn't, but it's still huge impact on the spinal cord, on the skull, on your whole body.
And that's a big difference between judo throws and wrestling throws. Judo throws will actually whip you up and over, your feet leave the ground, it's much higher impact. And there's no guarantee you're going to land properly. There's still the option of getting thrown on your head, on your shoulder.
When we were talking about the game plan for both, obviously for Ronda Rousey, it seems pretty simple. Get a hold of Sarah McMahon and try to throw her in some way. Sarah McMahon is obviously going to try her best to defend that. Does she use the wrestling to keep this fight standing and try to play the striking game?
Well, you know, if you're an elite fighter with elite coaches, you've got a number of choices, a number of game plans. One is if Ronda's on her back from the wrestler, she's dangerous. She has an armbar, and that like the world-class armbar. And conversely, McMahon really is a wrestler. They hate being on their back. And on the feet, Ronda believes that she can win that on the feet if McMahon forces it to stay there. So I think she believes she can win regardless.
Quickly, putting you on the hot seat, Ronda Rousey or Sarah McMahon, who emerges triumphant?
Ronda by submission, I'm going to say if it's submission, 50% of the chance it's going to be an armbar, 25% rear naked choke, 25% triangle.
When we come back to 5 rounds, we take a look at some of the fights on the undercard of UFC 170.